Hello, and welcome to Chapter 2 of Brian's Foundation Project. Today we're going to be talking about the different theories. The chapter's actual name, is From Theory to Practice in Teaching Music to Children. First up is the ecological systems theory, which is basically talking about how children learn in different environments and different groups. So, we have microsystems, which are basically families and classrooms. And an example of that being shape note singing. Shape note singing is a type of singing that developed in the 1700s. And essentially, it was just groups of people that would sit in a room and get out a book and they'd sing for hours and hours on end. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't a pretty sound at all, but it was singing. Next up, you have mesosystems, which are microsystem, ecosystems, interactions, which essentially are you group kids into a group, into different little pods, like in our foundations class. I'm part of the Fortes. And then you have them cooperate with each other. And you have them do challenges and you have them do tasks. Next up is the global culture flow, which essentially means that you're bringing different types of music from different cultures and styles, and you are presenting that to children. Musical play. Musical play is my personal favorite because it's musical games. When I was teaching the second time, I did a game called Solami, which essentially is you establish a tonal center. Let's do C, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. And you give them a 3-syllable pitch. Sol, ti, do. And then you keep doing that unless you say sol, la, mi, which if they repeat that, they would be out. That's a musical game of how to teach kids solfege. Yeah. Socialization. Socialization is where children are socialized through adult interactions and guidance. Leading a class, it's like a choir. You have one adult who is in charge of the group, and they run music, and that adult would be in charge of socializing. You'd be talking about the different kinds of music that you've made. You'd be talking about all of these different things. Next up, we have constructivism, which is essentially their children are developing their own ideas about music from their own experiences, which is what I'm doing right now. This would be constructivism. And I know a time where I've done this is during Boy Choir Festival, which is a festival hosted by the Maryland State Boy Choir every year. We would have a debrief of the festival, and we would talk about all of the things that we learned from the festival, what went well, what didn't go well, what could we have changed, stuff like that. Now we're going to talk about reinforcement, which is where learning music can be enforced by negative and positive and negative connotations and emotions. I remember I was in a rehearsal. We were rehearsing music for our spring concert, and my director had a breakdown, and he left the room, and the assistant director came up, and we ran the music, and that was the end. That would be a time where negative reinforcement came to play. A time where positive reinforcement, Masterworks. I've always loved Masterworks. Masterworks has been my favorite class so far at Fredonia. And I find that I learn music better in Masterworks than in any other group. Social learning, where kids learn music and learn stuff through observing adults. This would be a sports. Sports is a great analogy. Going to a professional orchestra, going to see a professional cellist. I know a professional cellist was just in Buffalo. That's a great tool. Next, we have spatial intelligence theory, which is where the brain helps. It helps, or this would be used primarily for very high level music levels of music theory, integers, socialism. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the name. I'm blanking on the name. Bartok. Um, I'm forgetting the name of the style of music, but where it's very number oriented. Math is heavily involved. I'm blanking on that name, but deliberate practice, where music requires or where a skill requires 10 hours, 10,000 hours of learning in order to be declared an expert. Which I personally do not believe. I think that you are an expert in something until when others declare you yourself cannot declare yourself an expert. Um, and cerebral dominance is where you have the left side of your brain and the right side of your brain, and they both are mapped so that they control opposite sides. So this hand, my right hand is controlled by my left side of my brain, and my right hand is controlled by my left, and my left hand is controlled by my right side of the brain. This comes into play a lot with conducting, where you have to keep a steady beat pattern, and then you have to be hand independent, and then yeah, specifically with children, teaching them how to rub their hands and pat their head, and then switch. That's cerebral dominance. Yeah. I'll see you in chapter 3.